All right, so we're back for the second part of this podcast and this discussion now. First part, we got a lot of Vic's business story and just kind of how that moved into now him running for mayor. Now, we have another friend of ours, long-term friend. What I really want to talk about is just kind of what were your initial impressions about Vic when you met him and just earlier on as the relationship was building. So, Ray, tell us a little bit about kind of what were some of your earlier thoughts about Vic and some of the things that you either heard about him or you witnessed about him.
Well, it was more, I can't say I heard much about Vic. I mean, we just met, and we didn't really have any mutual friends or anything at the time. But but what I witnessed though was, we talked a little bit about this offline or whatever, but man, I was like, this man is tenacious. Like this dude does not give up. I mean, like it's always, it was like I said, for growing up in a small town, people just did the norm, go to work, come home, watch some TV, rinse and repeat. But then when I met Vic, I noticed that wasn't really the case. Vic was always cooking something up, whether it be, doing something for the business, doing something, having ideas. I mean, there were a lot of nights that we just bounce our ideas off each other, literally. Just like, man, if we did this, if we did that, man, the kind of money we can make in it, so I never really had that kind of conversation with anyone in a real way. And what really impressed me with Vic was that, you talk about these kind of things with people sometimes, and that's all you ever do. But we would talk about stuff. We would talk about ideas, and next thing you know, a week, 2 weeks, a month later, the idea, it was happening. He was doing it. Oh yeah, man. You know what would be good ideas?
I thought you were playing.
Yeah, seriously. I was like, oh yeah, I think it's what do you think about this the trucking business with the dirt trucks? And you tell me, I'm like, hey, that's random. Okay, but yeah, tell me more. And Vic started telling me more about it. It's like, okay, sounds like a good idea to me. A month later, they say, no, hey man, I need a logo for the truck.
By the way, we now got 12.
Yeah, that's right. So that was my initial thought. And he was a very unique person as far as just being completely different from anything I was used to. I didn't have anybody in my family, no friends, anybody like that was that was like that. So it was really really drew me in.
Yeah. And I would say I noticed something very similar, because I actually heard about Vic from a mutual friend of ours, Nick.
Oh yeah, Nick Blocker.
Yeah, Nick Blocker.
Nick Blocker had told me about Vic, and I would say when Nick came to my apartment, because I knew Nick from high school. He graduated with my older brother.
Okay.
So I invited him over. He came to my apartment. I think I might have been in the kitchen, trying to cook something. And Nick was telling me about, these new friends he was hanging around, new people he was hanging around. It's like, hey, down to earth guys, military country boy guy, really down to earth, but has a lot of wisdom. I'm like, oh, okay. I mean, sounds good enough. I'll meet him. And when I met him, I noticed some of the same things as far as man, this dude is he's pretty bold about the stuff that he's saying.
Yeah.
And he seems pretty confident about these things. So I'm curious for you, Vic. I mean, when it comes down to imparting that confidence to other people, spending that time of mentoring other people, where did that come from for you? Because not everybody who is experienced some level of success in their life is putting forth that much effort to pour into other people.
Yeah. Well, like I told you guys in the car, my childhood growing up, I quit a lot of things. Not because I wasn't good at it. I tried for the wrestling team. I was mid-season. I just quit because I'd rather go back and try to make money so I could work on them part-time after school. And then I tried out for a football team and made the team. And then I was like, you know what? I could be making money right now cutting grass. So I quit that. So I quit so many things. And then I joined the Marine Corps. Right out of high school, I enlisted. And it was 13 weeks of just excruciating training and whatever. But when we graduated, they gave me the Eagle Globe and Acre, and I realized this lifelong dream of proving myself to myself was accomplished. I broke down crying because I was like, and it's the first time I've ever seen something through to the end. You know, that was that significant and not giving up. And to this day, I don't know how to quit on anything. If I start something, you know, I'm hesitant to get involved with things because I'm like, man, I know me. If I do, I'm gonna be all in. You know, I don't know how to do it halfway, right?
Yeah.
You know, like, and you know, when I first ran for office, I was like, man, I'm probably gonna get all in this thing. And it went from 2 days of campaigning to 7 days a week to, you know, starting at 5 p.m. to starting at 11 a.m. or whatever. And it's like, but I feel like the word says we're to do everything as if unto God, right? And so you can't do as if unto God when you're volunteering in the church parking lot on Sunday, but show up late to your employer on Monday, right? That's doing one thing unto God, but then not the other. You know, you can't keep your word to your business partner, but break your word to your best friend. You know, so I don't break my word. I don't know anybody that's ever heard of me breaking my word, and so that tenacity comes from, I think, the boot camp lesson of knowing what I'm capable of if I don't quit. But it's just, I've seen other success stories, and the common thread is they just don't quit. There's no commonality of education, background, if they inherited it or not, what race they are, what religion they are. You know, people try to make those things an issue. It's not. If you really look at all success stories that there's now access to with social media and everything, the common thread is work. They work at it. They keep their blinders on. They don't care what anybody says, and they get laughed at. I have been laughed at a lot in my lifetime. People picking on me because, you know, he's over there doing this little thing. You know, while they had a title and a name badge and a parking space at their employer, I'm like, cool, good for you, man. You know, I'm gonna keep doing my little thing y'all pick on me about. But you know, it finally came to fruition, and then you hear the things like, "Oh, it must be nice." I'm like, "I will strangle you." You know, like, y'all were clowning on me, you know. But I think that's where it comes in. Now that I've seen you and all the different friends of mine that we've grown up with, and seen all of y'all hold on to things and stick it through, and watching you travel around the world and speaking engagements, stuff like that. Like, we all have that now. I got it from my mentor. Somehow God allowed y'all to be in my lives as well, and I think I downloaded that into you in some small way. And to see how we've all taken those lessons and applied them over the last 20 years is such a blessing for all of us, for the three of us, because we stay in each other's lives. We follow each other. We see what's going on. We don't see each other every day or talk every day, but man, you know, if I talk to you on the phone and I hadn't talked to you in 2 years, it's like I talked to you yesterday. You know?
That's right. Yeah, I agree.
No, I think that's very true, because that was one of those things that the lessons that did impart on me of, I make way, and my wife points this out too. She was like, you don't really commit to a ton of different things, but the things you do commit to, you follow through on. And I'm like, that's very intentional. I'm like, because it's been ingrained, like, if I make a commitment to something, like, I have to, like, really do that thing, to which means I'm going to be very selective about the things I commit to, because I have to, there's no other option. I have to follow through. Now, I guess for you, you know, Ray, what were some of the early kind of lessons that you kind of picked up from being around Vic and just the conversations we had, you know, what, almost 20 years ago?
I mean, just what you guys said with the commitment. You know, I think about in the Bible, it talks about, you know, commit. You know, if you're gonna let your yea be yea and your nay be nay, you know, it's like committing something even when it hurts. You know, because they're, you know, even the small things. One of the things I remember, like the meetings we used to go to, for example. There were a lot of nights I didn't want to go. There were a lot of nights I just wanted to stay there, you know, hit up some Xbox and just call it a night. But I made a commitment to, you know, it wasn't even about the meeting. I made a commitment that I was going to be there, and I told you I was going to be there. And just like you said, whenever you made a commitment to me, that's where it started. And even no matter how big or small it was, you would make sure it happened. You know, if you said you were going to be somewhere, you'd be there. You know, if you said you were going to do something, you would do it. And like you said, that kind of downloaded to me to the point where I actually saw an example of that, of, you know, of seeing people that keep their word. It sounds like a small thing, but I didn't really realize how big of a thing it was until I broke out. Until we got to a point where we kind of we moved to different places and all this. I started raising my family and all that stuff, and it blew my mind once I kind of once we kind of, I ain't gonna say went our separate ways, but once we kind of our paths diverged or whatnot, I started running into people that I'm like, man, like, people don't keep their word. So
Yeah.
and I was like a kid. It was
Right.
like, because I grew up, like you
What
said,
is this?
we grew up together. So if Terrell said he was going to be somewhere, I mean, I didn't have nothing I could bank on it, right?
Yeah.
Vic said he going to be somewhere, I could bank on it.
Yeah.
But once I started going to meeting the, normal, I don't even call normal people, but most people,
Right.
I mean, it was no problem for them to stand you up places.
Yeah.
Like, matter of fact, they invite you somewhere
Yeah.
and then not show up.
Well, you know what makes me laugh? And when I have a meeting with somebody, I say, we'll meet for lunch on Thursday or whatever at 12 o'clock. When they text me on Thursday morning, like, hey, are we still on? I'm like, do you not know who I am?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
If I say I'm going to be there Thursday,
Yeah.
I'm either dead or
Yeah.
I'm at lunch.
Seriously. And I even find myself to this day, like, I will go out of my way to keep what I have to say. Granted, things happen or whatever, but I will put a lot of pressure on myself to make sure that I fulfill. If I told you I'm going to do something, I do it.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's just the bottom line. And I learned that through being with you guys. And like I said, I didn't realize I was learning it until I got away and went out to the real world.
Right.
So I would probably say that's probably one of the biggest lessons that's come with me over the years.
Integrity's not common.
Yeah, it's not. It really is not. It really is not.
Yeah, it was very interesting that early on when I had first met Vic, like, you and I, we lived in Charlotte.
Yeah.
And Vic didn't live in Charlotte, but it was like, he was there.
Yeah.
I was like, I had no idea. I thought he lived in Charlotte, how frequently he was there.
You got an apartment down here somewhere?
So it's like, I didn't know he was driving like 2 hours, hour and a half, 2 hours to be there just for a couple of hours, and then he'd drive home that night. To where I'm just like, wow, this dude, I was like, I wonder where he lives in the city. And then later on I found out, like, oh, he doesn't live in the city. So I'm like, man, this dude really is committed to following through.
I get home 3, 4 in the morning some nights. I didn't care though, man. Like I felt like I'd be selfish if I didn't pass along the stuff that my mentor gave to me. And I feel like if everybody could know the principles that are success principles, it doesn't have to be applied to finances, right? It doesn't have to be, you have to use it to make money. You can use it to build a great church that reaches a lot of people. You can use it to be a great nonprofit that makes a big impact for homelessness, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But if you don't have those same success principles, if you can't be trusted, if you can't keep your word, then you can't succeed at anything.
That's right.
And there were times where I remember I went to the Harvey's son's graduation down at Paris Island, and the girl I was dating at the time, and she's like, I went and I had to speak in Fayetteville that night. So I was in Fayetteville. I spoke from 8 till about 11, and then he was graduating the next morning. So I got in my car and I drove from Fayetteville down to Paris Island and slept in my car. Baby wiped it up, put my some suit and tie on, whatever. And the girl I was dating, she's like, "Why are you doing that? Like they'll understand if you don't make it. You said you were going to be there, but they'll understand." I'm like, I can't do that.
Yeah.
I can't live with that. I gave them my word I'm going to be there. And at 6 a.m. I was there at the parade day, and they were blown away that I was there.
Yeah.
They're like, "Didn't you have to do something in Fayetteville last night?" I said, "Yeah, I just slept in my car. I gave my word I was going to be here, so I'm here." I don't know where they are, what happened to those folks. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
That was priceless for me to keep my word, no matter what the cost was.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now, I want to ask, Ray, for you, one of those places where you definitely, two of those places where you definitely have to keep your word is in marriage and with raising children. So, how did that kind of show up for you as far as, keeping a healthy marriage and now raising children?
All right, I'll start with the kids first, because with the kids, you have to, being a parent of your word, you have to be in on both sides, right? If you tell them that, if they do X, Y, Z, they're going to be in trouble, and you got to stick to it. Same thing with the good stuff, like if you come home and actually do X, Y, Z, and you get X, Y, Z, you do it, and you get to it. So it's you have to use it for both sides, particularly with the discipline. I hate to say it that way, but with the discipline, it's one of those things where I'll tell you another one good one. My daughter came up to me, and she said something, and she basically cussed, but it was so cute. It was so cute. It was the most adorable thing ever. I was like, oh my God, oh, it's so cute. But I had to stay in daddy mode, and I said, we don't say that, and if you say it again, you're going to be in trouble. And sure enough, a couple days down the road, she said it again, and I had to, do a little discipline. And I didn't want to. I was not even I wasn't even on that. Like I was like, I had a good day at work. I'm feeling good. I'm ready to come home, just chill out. And then I get this, and it's like, oh, man. But I got to do what I say I was going to do, because that stuff stays with your children. That stuff stays with your children. And then moving on to my wife, the same thing. Now, granted, I'm not as, I'm sure she argued that I don't always take out the trash when I say I'm going to take it. But there's there's a level of trust that we have with each other. For example, that I'm here. I'm 3 hours away. I can imagine being in a scenario where my wife is blowing me up, asking me where I'm at, who I'm with. She might even be concerned that I'm with other women or anything. Anything can happen, right? But because I've done my best to be a man of my word, and hadn't gave her any reason to distrust me in this area or anything like that, and where it counts, I learned that from the association, where, like I said, the small things are like going to those meetings I didn't want to, doing this, doing that, but her not having to worry about what I'm doing is freedom for her and freedom for me. So those are the kind of things I would say that I really took into my marriage and raising my children. It's all tied together, it seems like.
Yeah. Now, I guess for you, Vic, you've been on the council for the city for some years now. So I'm sure that the citizens have gotten a chance to see that, hey, follow through on commitment. So, have you gotten any feedback from some of the citizens here as far as them noticing that in you, and just kind of what are some of the things that they've said?
Yeah, like overwhelming. Like, they say it's a thankless job, and I see why. Most people don't deserve to be thanked in this job. Right? I wouldn't thank him either. But it's just, I just do what I normally do. You guys call me, text me. You don't gotta wait. You get a call or text back right away. Like, well, what you got?
Yeah.
And it's not that I don't have anything to do. I've got a really crazy schedule, but. People that email me, they get an email back. If they got a phone number in the email, I try to pick up the phone and call them and follow up to the email. Say, just I sent you an email back. And I love wowing them, because they're like, wow, I had no idea that you'd actually call me. And I said, what can I do to just blow their mind? What can I do to just go above and beyond? Not because I want the job. Like, it's a public service type thing. But I've had people say, I've never had an elected official in my lifetime, or the 30 years that I've lived here, that's done as much for our community and been as responsive and transparent as you. And whatever you run for, you have our support. So, but it's sad that more people don't treat an elected official type position with the sincerity that I do, because that's what America needs.
Yeah.
If you say you're going to represent somebody, then you ought to be there when they need you. You ought to be able to listen to them and hear them out, even if you disagree with them. Right? I disagree with a lot of people that share with me their views on things, but I still hear them out. And I'm a better leader because I know the other side.
Yeah, that's right.
Nice. All right. So one of the other things the other lesson that stood out to me, I think early on, was just learning how to have fun. Executing on whatever it is that you were doing. Because I would say in the times when we were learning some of those business lessons, like, there was still a lot of hard work that went involved of like,
Uh-oh.
Okay. Our women be messing up.
Man, what are they doing? It's like they on a timer, man. Yeah. What's going on?
Let me make sure my
I'm for real.
Golly.
They all send each other an email.
I know, right? She knows we're up here filming.
Yeah, my ringer is off.
Yeah, it's about that time. Yeah. We got ladies checking in on us. Be blessed indeed.
All right. So one of the things that stood out to me, I think, are just learning to to be patient during that process, because nothing was going to happen overnight, and also just learning to just find enjoyment in that in that process and in that journey. So I'm curious for you, Vic, how you learn that lesson, because that's something that I think you imparted into us of, hey, you're not going to be an overnight success.
Yeah.
It's going to take some gradual effort, but hey, we got to figure out how to have fun in that process of continuing to execute.
Well, I mean, the word talks about don't get weary in well doing. You'll reap what you sow, due season. So I mean, I think for me, learning the word along with business principles is very key. Mm-hmm. Some people say you shouldn't mix your faith and business. You should never do business without faith, mm-hmm. right? Like I would never, that's the biggest ingredient of my business is my faith.
Yep.
And so learning that just gave me confidence that man, I mean, a lot of stuff I've actually accomplished took me so much longer than other people that did the same thing. Mm-hmm. But it just, when you've already made up your mind what your end goal is, right? Mm-hmm. You've made your mind, you get in agreement with God about that goal, and then you know that it's going to happen. You know that at some point, I'm going to get to this destination. I'm going to arrive to where to this goal. You're going to have another goal up to that goal. Mm-hmm. But also have accountability. I mean, you guys were accountable to me, and I was accountable to you. We would all talk about our goals, and there wasn't one time where any of you were condescending when I didn't hit a goal, mm-hmm. or vice versa. It was like, hey man, we did our best.
Moving,
you know what I'm saying?
We tried.
Today's the first. Let's hit it again. We just built each other as brothers, as men, and said, all right, let's go on for after the next goal. And so there's so many people are afraid to fail. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, what's the worst that can happen? Mm-hmm. I mean, if I fail, I can try again. If I fail, I can try again. Mm-hmm. So I've watched so many people succeed over my lifetime, and most of them have a whole lot of failures in their path. Mm-hmm. So it gave me hope.
Yeah, great.
Now, I guess for you, Ray, how did that kind of play out? That that lesson on just, you said, not fearing failure, mm-hmm. and just knowing that, hey, sometimes the temporary setbacks are part of the journey.
Yeah.
So how did that play out for you?
I mean, same thing as Vic said. I mean, especially back then we were so young. I mean, we had all the time in the world to fail, And the funny part about it is, even though we failed, it didn't feel like it because we were all, we had each other.
Yeah.
So it was just like you said, we failed, hey man, we didn't hit this number this month. There it is. But I would probably say for me it was learning how, and this is something that I feel like you have to, this is a benefit of knowing the Lord, is that you can actually reflect and find wins that you don't really expect to be wins. Like the thing is, you win along the way. It's not like you just all of a sudden you lose, and then you just win. You actually kind of win incrementally. Like the fact that you could have got depressed that day and not reached out to a client or something like that, but instead you didn't. You reflected. You prayed to the Lord. You got to a point where maybe you did something. Maybe you. I'm at a loss for words, but my point is that you win along the way. The fact that we would go. I would tell Vic, like, hey man, I missed my numbers on insurance. Or I felt like I could have got that one, but I didn't get that close that deal. And then he's like, no problem. And then sometimes that's the one. The fact that I know somebody's there that's not going to condemn me for making a mistake.
Yeah.
So that was I would say just knowing that, being able to appreciate even the small wins. And sometimes you got to go out of your way to find them, but they're there if you look for them. You win along the way, I feel like.
Yeah, that's good.
Gotcha. Now, Vic, I'm curious for you, with being a mentor to other people. And you talked about at first not having the strong enough self-image to see yourself as doing it. After you started mentoring other people, were there any other doubts that popped up in your mind, or I guess you would say things you had to work through to become a better mentor?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen some that have way surpassed me. I've got some guys that I've mentored that have just tripled or more anything that I've created So, and that at first, you know, I'd say 20 years ago when I really began this journey of mentoring people and being involved in that as a passion, you know, that would bother me. But now I'm like, I don't care, you know, like that's a tie. But that, you know, I want that person to be blessed and beyond. But, you know, like, hey, if they get a nice house in Vegas and a couple Bugattis, hey, let me ride in it one day. You know what I mean? I don't care. But, you know, the challenge is, though, am I worthy, right? You know, why would this person listen to me? And so some people, they don't think that they need it. You know, I've been in scenarios where I know I could help this person completely change their business around, but their ego won't let me help them. You know, I'm like, hey, I'll grab a cup of coffee with you, and maybe I can help you figure it out. And like, in their mind, they're like, who are you? You know, I'm like, you don't understand, like, sowing into each other's lives isn't I'm bigger than you, or you know, it's not a master servant, it's not a junior or senior or anything like that. It's being sounding boards to each other, right? And so I've learned from every person that I've mentored. There's something that I've learned from them while I'm trying to my best to sow into them. And but the reward is there. You see people's lives change. The disappointing thing is when they just don't listen. You know, Ray had a situation one time where, you know, I was upset. You know, he got a big commission, made a ton of money, and I said, all right, pay your lead bill with it. Remember that?
Oh yeah, I still remember that. Hell yeah.
I said, whatever you do, that's
that
not
lead
your
bill.
money. Pay your lead bill with it, and he didn't do it.
Sure didn't.
He paid some other bills and did some other stuff with it, and I wasn't mad at you. I was mad for you.
Right.
Because I was like, you lost a valuable lesson that you got to put your money into your business first. You know, make sure the baby can eat before you eat, kind of a thing. And it took you 2-3 months to recover from that mistake.
It was big.
I was like, what do you mean you still got a lead bill? You got $3,000 some in it. Well,
what happened, Vic? What happened was.
But like I said, I was like, I'm not mad because I want to be right. I mean, I'm mad because I want you to know what it's like to be able to make the right decisions all the time for the right reasons. And eventually, Ray got there. You know, he got to where that would never be a temptation. It's like, all right, Vic says this, I'm just going to do this. Even if I disagree, I'm just going to trust the process.
Yep.
And now you understand it. You get it. You know, like you keep the business going before you worry about any of your personal stuff.
Yeah.
You go without food before you go without funding the business. And so it's frustrating. If you're a personal trainer, you see the guy you're trying to help get fit eating an ice cream pizza, it's a letdown. You know, you're like,
that's right.
Man, what am I doing? You know, but the friendship that we have and have always had allowed us to get past that, and you'd understand the love that I meant when I said, dude, why did you do that? Like, I just want greatness for you. And how we grew through that to see you make better decisions over the years and just be on a fast track for success in your own life has been motivating for me.
Yeah. And just to add to that, you know, you hear a lot of talk about mentorship as far as the pleasant side, but, you know, that is another mark of a mentor that's able to really tell you the truth about the situation, because it's so easy, because especially with my personality type, you know, I tend to kind of be like, oh man, hey, good for you, you know, and no matter what the situation is, but when it's someone I care about, I won't let it slide.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If it's a coworker or somebody I'm not that close with, and they tell me they're doing some crazy mess, I'm like, man, hey, have at it, man.
Do you, right?
But if it's somebody I'm close to, I love, man, dude, they're gonna hear it all.
Right.
They're gonna hear it all. And the way Vic delivered it to me, it was all I loved. Because to be honest with you, I didn't know he was mad at me. I mean, I didn't know he was, but he delivered it with so much love. Like you said, like it got to a point where, like, I'm like, in my mind, because of the relationship that we built with each other, it's like I know he's telling me. I know Vic. This is my best friend. I know Vic. He, you know, when he's telling me this stuff, you know, he's not coming with any kind of malice or anything like that. He truly is just telling me this stuff so that I can grow. But it all comes from that trust. It all comes from that relationship. You know, maybe if he told me that maybe a month in, I'd be like, oh man, forget this guy. But we had the relationship, and I mean, if Vic tell me anything, I mean, at this point, I mean, I know where it's coming from. So and I respect the fact, because it's so much harder. It's so much harder to tell somebody the truth than to placate them, because it's easy just to be like, hey man, you're doing the right thing, you're doing great. It's easy to do that, but a real mentor will, they'll tell you the stuff that you may not want to hear, but you need to hear it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we talked about just kind of some of the lessons that we've learned. Now what I'm curious about is, with this new journey you're on of leading up to, the mayoral position, is what's your views on how to translate how those things translate into, helping you be a great mayor?
Well, I guess legalistically, the mayor is the head of the city council, right? But to be honest, the optics, the mayor's the head of the city. Mm-hmm. The mayor has to be someone that people can look to, not as a politician or whatever, but as a role model in some ways. Like, hey, son, this is a guy that we have respect for. He keeps his word. Mm-hmm. There's business leaders that have to go, hey, I can trust keeping my business in High Point because we have a mayor that's not going to slack off when it comes to making sure our businesses are safe. Mm-hmm. That they're going to respond to issues quickly and give them the attention that they deserve. And so all those values that were instilled into me, that I instilled into you guys and many others over the years, that's just who I am. And I'm hoping that I can continue to do that on a larger scale as the mayor. Mm-hmm. It's just another thing that I'm doing. It's not a life goal for me to be the mayor. Like I'm not into politics, right? I just go, and I think it can help, mm-hmm. And if I can't, if they send me packing in November or whatever, I'll get my life back, But if they accept my offer, say, hey, I'm willing to give you the next 4 years of my life, and I'm going to see if I can apply the same gifts that have been transformational for you mm-hmm. and for you and over 100 other people, maybe I can use those same gifts for my city. Mm-hmm. All I can do is step forward on faith and have the right attitude, and if people receive it, cool. And if they don't, that's fine too. Mm-hmm. But you just want to be out there serving God's kingdom, mm-hmm. however it is, whether it's a minister or volunteering at a homeless shelter, serving as a mayor. Right. It doesn't really matter. Yeah. Not one's better than the other. That's right. They're just different, And I remember I've talked to senators and congressmen about, wow, it must be really cool. He's like, man, you're doing the same work I am. Mm-hmm. You're doing the same work I am. You're right where you need to be. You're right where God called you to be. And the pressure, I guess, is that, hey, I don't like letting people down. Mm-hmm. I very rarely do, mm-hmm. because I just try my best. And so I know it's going to be harder with 115,000, 116,000 people that I'm responsible for rather than 20,000. Mm-hmm. But I'll also have the support of the council. Mm-hmm. They'll be doing what I've been doing for 6 years, representing things on a local level, and I'll be, the quarterback, so to speak. So, and God wouldn't call me to it if He wasn't going to quit me anyway. Mm-hmm. You only get stressed when you start thinking about what you're going to be responsible mm-hmm. for. Yeah. Right? The fear kicks in like, mm-hmm. what is this person, this 200 pounds of flesh going to be able to take on? You got to get your brain off of you, mm-hmm. And it's like, God can handle anything. Mm-hmm. Whatever role He needs me to play in His plan, not mm-hmm. my plan, then I'll play. Mm-hmm. But I love what Joseph Prince says. He says, when we work, He rests. Mm-hmm. When we rest, He works. Mm. And so, will I be the most effective mayor that this city's ever seen? Quite possibly. Because you know what? It's not going to be about me. It's about Him. Mm-hmm. If I just sit there and do the work and show up and let Him be the instrument that works through me, mm-hmm. then these people are going to have an amazing representation. We're going to get a lot done. Mm-hmm.
I love it. So as we wrap up, one of the final questions that I want to kind of go through, and I'll start with you, Ray, is, let's say, you're talking to someone, telling them like, hey, I was doing this podcast with Vic and Terrell, and hey, we talked about a lot of great things, but hey, you should definitely go back and listen to that episode. Mm-hmm. But when you do, what are 2 big takeaways you think people should have from this conversation?
I would say the journey, the section we were talking about, the journey. trying to have fun along the way, you know. And a blend of what Vic just said, you know, try to take yourself out of it. Stop looking at what you can do as an individual, and start leaning on God, and on the people that are around you that are willing to be in there with you. Not everybody's going to be in there with you, but we prove you only need a few. Yeah. You only need a few. You need a few good people they'll support you, and you know, they'll tell you the truth when the truth need to be told. They'll encourage you when you need it. You know, they'll do the things that'll keep you focused on that goal. And yeah, so I would say that's our biggest takeaway. Just enjoy the journey, and be grateful for it, and appreciate the wins along the way.
All right, and I'll leave it to you to wrap it up, Vic. So what's your 2 big takeaways you want people to have from this conversation?
Value true friendships. I think friendships are so fake and trivial out there in the world. You know, somebody's, we're friends on Facebook. That ain't real. You know what I mean? Like,
It's not.
Yeah. I think if you're fortunate enough to have 5, 10 true friends in your life, you really won. You've done really well. Mm-hmm. And don't mistake the people you see, your friends you see every day, as that. You know, we don't see each other every day.
Yeah,
I wish.
Yeah,
right?
I wish to be too.
Reality, you know,
Yeah.
you've got your life, your family in Wilmington, you're down in Charlotte, but this is helpful, right? And so, first thing would be value of friendships. Second thing is pour into those friendships, right? Here's the litmus test. If you hang out with somebody for an hour, if you're more tired after that hour than you were at the beginning, that's not a healthy friendship.
Wow.
Right? You should be able to come with your tank empty when you come into my home, or we grab lunch, or we talk on the phone, and you should get off of that conversation, telling Deck, and go back to Dex like you just had 3 cups of coffee.
Yeah, that's right.
And
That's
so,
what happens.
I tell people, recognize when you've got healthy brothers, right? And make sure that you're doing everything you can when you're around them to pour into that person.
Yes.
Because you never know. You know, you don't know what Terrell had happened to him today. You know, don't show up and just dump on him what happened to you today and whatever that stuff. But so value your friendships, but pour into your friendships. Be an encourager. Be a person of exhortation.
Yeah.
You know, and I think if you do that, you're going to build each other up. And we've watched each other grow through so much. You know, different businesses and opportunities and marriages and kids and you know, all these different things. Well, at least you guys have done all that. I've dodged all that, right? You know, I'm kidding, but you know, like it. But there's just some value when somebody's like, "How long you known this guy?" I'm like, 20 years.
Yep.
You know, like most people don't have 20-year friends.
That's right.
Now, if we had met at 2 years old, we'd be saying 40 years.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? 20 years from now, we'll be able to say 40 years. Like we're not going. This is not going anywhere.
That's right.
Right. It's only going to stay and continue, and we're going to watch each other go through other things, and we'd be maybe doing another podcast in a couple of years and talking about what's happened over the last 5 years. You know.
Yeah.
So I value you guys, and I always have, and I want people, if they can see anything, take away anything from that, is that I hope they find what we have in their lives.
Yeah.
Awesome. I love it. Well, there you have it, guys. The wrap up of the special episode with Ray and Vic. And Vic will be the next mayor of High Point. So
Yep.
until next time, guys.